The opinions and viewpoints expressed in .NET Rocks are not necessarily those of its sponsors, or of Microsoft Corporation, its partners, or employees. .NET Rocks is a production of Franklin's Net, which is solely responsible for its content. Franklin's Net, training developers to work smarter. Hey, Rockheads! Take your utilikilt off and listen up. It's time for another stellar episode of .NET Rocks, the internet audio talk show for .NET developers with Carl Franklin and Rory Blythe. This is Jeff Maciolik, here to announce show number 84 with guest Chris Sells, recorded live Friday, October 8th, 2004. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net, training developers to work smarter, and now offering hands-on VBNet, ASP.NET, and C# classes online at www.franklins.net. Support is also provided by Data Dynamics, makers of ActiveReports.net, simple, powerful, and cost-effective reporting for Windows Forms and ASP.NET web applications, online at www.datadynamics.com. Support is also provided by Code Magazine, Microsoft Technologies in-depth for IT managers and developers, online at www.code-magazine.com. And now, the man who is suing Rory for therapy costs from listening to the Burning Man song, Carl Franklin!
Yeah! How are you, friends? Carl here. You're listening to .NET Rocks, and we're live in New London, Connecticut tonight. Kirk is here. Hey, Kirk.
Hey.
And out there in Portland, Oregon, my co-host, Mr. Rory Blythe. How are you, sir?
What's pretty good.
Yeah. What's happening with you, man? You had a good week?
I actually had a really good week. On Saturday night, I'm not gonna go into detail or anything, but I just had like a really good night. And then
all right, good.
And then last night, I had a really good night, and that's all I'm saying.
This makes
about
for
that.
gripping radio, you know. I think a couple more reelies and we'll really go over the top.
Well, since I'm not giving any details, I thought I'd just fill it in with more reelies.
Right.
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 I mean, it's better than nothing. But yeah, no, I've kind of been spending time with a human being that's been very pleasant.
Good.
So
good.
So it's been a really good week. And for anybody who is going to be hearing this show before Tuesday, I just wanted to say this right off the bat. I'm going to be giving a presentation in Boise, Idaho on Tuesday. I'm going to be doing a little user group presentation out there. So you ought to just watch my blog. It's going to be on like 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. It's a very last minute thing, so I want to get the word out.
Oh, good. Yeah, now you speaking of your blog, you've got a contest going on, right?
Yes, that's true. A few weeks ago, I think it was Richard Thomas.
Yeah, Richard Thomas.
Out in the UK, got that copy of Visual Studio .NET 2003 Special Edition from us. And I mailed that out today, and holy crap, was that expensive. You better really like this thing. And then I've got another copy that I'm going to be giving away on my blog. Okay. And so I've got the contest going on. That's going to start on Monday, and it's going to run through Friday, and then I'm going to take a week to tally everything up and count the bribe money and figure out who's going to win the copy.
I think we have a new nickname for you, Rory.
What's that?
The Candyman.
The Candyman. Well, yeah, okay. I'm fine with that, That's cool. Sweet. A little weird.
The
cool.
Candyman.
So
Rory the Candyman. Come get the candy. So, yeah, I had a great week. Had a great class this week. 4 guys, really bright, really enjoyed it. Got to do some more advanced things that I don't normally get to do. And I just had a great time. And they enjoyed it as well. That's about all I'm going to say about this week. Obviously, some really interesting things are cooking that we can't talk about, mostly to do with the .NET Rocks party, right?
Yeah, I think what we can say is if you don't go to the party, then you're going to slap yourself on the forehead with either one of your hands or perhaps both, or maybe even like a third hand.
We have
that's growing
amazing.
out of your hip or something.
Yeah.
And because you're going to need that extra, you're going to need 50% more hands with which to slap yourself to make up for all the slapping that's going to have to take place. You're going to go, damn, I missed that.
We have some surprises we can't talk about and that you're just going to have to go to see. So look, from most places in the United States anyway, a plane ticket to Vegas is going to be cheap. So fly in on Friday night, stay Saturday, go to the party Saturday night, fly home Sunday. Spend a weekend in Vegas with Carl and Rory and Jeff and Kirk maybe, and if the boss will let him out, and a lot of the guests from .NET Rocks. I know Mark Miller's going to be there. I think Mark Dunn's going to be there, and it's going to just be awesome. And we have, like I said, some incredible, you won't believe what we have planned. It's just going to be that awesome.
Yeah, when you told me, I was kind of in disbelief. I actually thought that it was this cruel joke that was just going to get played out, and it was going to be a delayed April Fool's sort of thing. But after talking to you a bit more about it and talking to other parties involved, I realized that, in fact, you weren't just pulling a bunch of crap, and that something really cool is
brewing. So that's going to be November 6th, somewhere in Las Vegas. We're still looking for a place, and probably by next week we'll have something.
Yeah.
Hey, the big news before I read the mail, I was quoted in Wired, and Wired News Online at least came out with a story on podcasting. What is podcasting? As you know, in last week's show, we were introduced to podcasting as a term, and it's only a couple weeks old. But basically, the whole idea is a delivery mechanism for accessing MP3 files that are published on a regular schedule using RSS. And so it's nothing new. It's just RSS, like you would use an aggregator to go aggregate RSS content, but in RSS 2.0, there's an enclosure tag type that has a link to a file, like an MP3 file, and then a file size, and then a MIME type. And a smart programmer can write a program to go not just aggregate, HTML and text, but to actually go and download those MP3 files on a schedule. And so there's a bunch of projects going on to write programs to do that, to aggregate MP3 files. And .NET Rocks has, since last week, upgraded its RSS feeds to support enclosures. And we've cleaned up our RSS feeds quite a bit. We're actually using real tools now, Rory, not the string builder.
Okay. Yeah.
And so people are actually using it, and it's working. Also, we are supporting the iPod specifically with a bookmarkable audiobook format. So if you're using an iPod and listening to .NET Rocks, you can download it in AAC format, and then you can put a bookmark whenever you stop and come back to that bookmark. So it's good stuff. And I got to say, the whole idea of podcasting, with enclosures was, I guess, sort of Adam Curry, I guess, is sort of the guy who can take credit for getting this term off the ground. Don't you think, Rory?
That's when I really first started hearing about it.
Right.
But, it's hard to say.
Yeah, he was a VJ for MTV in the 80s. And
Adam of the biggest hair.
Right,
That's
Adam
how
Big Hair Curry. Yeah. Right, and so I got quoted. They asked me about what I thought about podcasting, and it's in Wired News. And the link is www.shrinkster.com/1BR. 1BR. And there you go. So, got some mail this week, though. As I said before, this one comes from Paul Schaefline. He says, Carl, I just received my October 2004 MSDN DVD shipment. I always browse the library disc to see what videos are included, MSDN TV, etc. I was blown away when I saw a category called .NET Rocks, episodes 60 through 71. Congratulations. And yeah, they're putting the shows, the old shows, on the MSDN DVDs that they're giving away. And in the last quarter, you got the first bunch of them. I guess maybe they're going backwards. I'm not actually sure. Anyway. This one's from Roland Boone. He says, hello, DNR team. The troubles one goes through to listen to your show at work. Your announcement that a new show can be downloaded first arrives at my company email address. Unfortunately, the company I work for decided to block MP3 and WMA files. One wonders why. The solution is simple when you have access to an ASP.NET server. First, download the file of that server, rename the file, and download that file. WebClient.fileDownload makes this a no-brainer. Not that it is very practical. It uses too much resources. The whole site goes almost offline until uploading all the 80-plus megabyte of a full show. Some extra coding will be necessary to get the CPU usage below a respectable threshold. So my first attempt of a DNR reloader can be found at www.shrinkster.com/17c. Thanks, guys, for making coding.net fun. Regards, Roland Boom. By the way, I put the DNR reloader inside my weblog code, weblog.aspx. The reason why I did this is that it allowed for reuse of some security code of the web service feeding the regular web page. The username password is necessary so that it's not misused. Good stuff. And this is perhaps Sorry, Rory, go ahead.
You know that sucks though. That his company's blocking MP3s. Really, I mean, it's like next they're going to want to block pornography and online gaming.
Shudder the thought. This is really cool, Roy. I don't know if you have seen the email from Jeff Fansler, who is called the Big Fanzoo. He says,
"Oh yeah.
Dear Carl, Rory, Jeff, Richard, and Kirk, I have a couple things to bring to your attention, but I'll start with the one I mentioned in the subject, which is called the most amazing technology since the web was invented. Oh, and I love .NET Rocks. What I have created could quite possibly change your life as you know it. I listen to your show all the time, and I can tell you are starting to miss all of the standard boilerplate praise emails. Since everyone started getting witty and putting in the XML angle bracket boilerplate email tags, I just know you missed the good old-fashioned boilerplate email. Well, I have put forth an effort to fix this atrocity. The last thing in the world the fans want is for you not to feel loved, so let's start with this. And he's got in blue, Dear Carl, Rory, Jeff, Richard, and Kirk, I just wanted to say I love the show. New line. I have filled my iPod with your legal MP3s to avoid being a thief. My favorite segment is Weird Wide Web. Parentheses, please don't kill Kirk. New line. This is an attempt to get useless crap. New line. Keep up the good work and keep on rocking. New line. Sincerely, Jeff Fansler. And at the bottom it says, this .NET Rocks praise has been generated using Fanzoo's amazing .NET Rocks praise generator V10, brought to you by Fanzoo Consulting.
Swag. Sorry. Swag.
So you may be wondering, what is the big deal with that? Well, I'll tell you. It's quite possibly the most amazing technology created since the web was invented. This, my friends, is the amazing Fanzoo's .NET Rocks praise generator. Now, anyone can easily generate some praise for you and fire off an email. You will no longer slave away unnoticed to the rest of the world. Your fans love you, and now they can all send you praise without having to write it. Oh, P.S. Don't blame me if your inbox is full of amazing praise. I just try to share the love. And then he says, P.S.S. If you have any spare useless crap, you would make all my coworkers jealous, not to mention all the quiet all the naysayers who said my DNR praise generator wasn't so amazing. And the link to this is shrinkster.com/1cg.
That is so awesome.
And there you go. So we actually got quite a few emails that looked exactly the same, which I'm not going to read.
Can I read what I've got here, like for the Fanzoo's amazing .NET Rocks praise generator?
Sure.
I love this. This is a free tool to generate your praise to the .NET Rocks host. Use this tool to generate an email that you can then paste into your favorite email program and modify it to your heart's content. This tool is absolutely free. How can I possibly offer this tool for free, you ask? I just love that. That's really good stuff right there.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. You're right.
Absolutely free.
We really, really do appreciate it. Okay, on to more serious matters. We had a show with Joe Stagner a little while ago, and he shocked the world when he replied indicating to a question that I asked, indicating that you could actually cause a SQL injection attack when using parameters. And he actually didn't say, when he said, well, I can, when I asked him if he could do that, if somebody could do that, he didn't mean that you could do SQL injection attacks with it. What he meant was that you can do a lot of other nasty things. So he actually replied to me, because a bunch of people sent me emails saying, tell me it isn't so. I said, Joe, the world wants to know if you can really do a SQL injection attack with parameters, or is it just that you are not safe from other kinds of attacks, even if you use parameters? Can you elaborate? And he said, hey, Carl, the vulnerability is not SQL injection via parameters, though I suppose that it is not impossible. And that's just the hacker skeptic right there. the vulnerabilities in overruns are in overruns via parameters. So, and there's no way around the need to validate input. So, no, he doesn't have a secret that the rest of us don't know. So, relax, people. It's all in good fun anyway, right? Hey, your computer's going down. Hey, have some fun. Relax. Relax. All right, anyway. This is from Rob Windsor, our good old friend up there in Canada, and he says, hey, Carl, Rory, and gang, could you take a minute next show to give some props to Craig Flanagan and the rest of the crew at MSDN Canada? For the past year or so, this group has gone above and beyond the call of duty to grow the .NET community up here. In addition to organizing regular user group leader conference calls, providing a community web space for us, and doing several deep dive events in major cities, MSDN is doing 4 coast-to-coast user group tours this year. Wow. It's due to these efforts that we have grown from 17 to 26 Canadian .NET user groups in the last year and look like growing even further in 2005. I don't know where the Employee of the Month plaque is down in Redmond, but I think Craig deserves to get his name on it. Keep on rocking, Rob Windsor. Craig, congratulations. You have our props, man.
Bravo.
Much love, much love.
Good job. We'll share the love. In fact, I'm going to forward some of these praise emails on to you. And, what can I say? That's the mail, and now it's time for the news.
Now obey.
So, the news of the week with Rory Blythe. How you doing, Rory?
I'm doing well. Okay, so the news this week. First, the news is that in the real world, could you hear my quotes? In the real world, when news is scooped, it's usually scooped like a day ahead or a few hours ahead or maybe like a week ahead.
Uh-huh.
But over the past 2 weeks, Carl, you have made a habit of scooping me mere minutes ahead.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was gonna announce that you were in Wired. I wanted to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
And just so you know, I have my own Shrinkster URL to that Wired article, and it's shrinkster.com/1cc.
Okay.
And it's a lot easier to remember than the other one that Carl used.
That's true, it is. All right.
Isn't it nicer and more aesthetically pleasing? Don't you wish you had waited? God. Okay, so...
It is really cool, not just because I got a quote, but just because, hey, here we have been doing, podcasting since May of 2002, and, basically allowing people to burn, so they started burning discs to the, CDs, MP3s to CDs and take them in their cars, and people have been copying into their place. So people have been doing that with .NET Rocks, but now it's just as easy as letting some program automatically download. So yeah. I thought it was very cool. Podcasting is here to stay.
Well, we got some mileage out of that news item again. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, it's shrinkster.com/1cc. Forget that other stupid URL Carl gave you earlier.
All right, cool.
Now the other little news item for the day is that Avalon was released on Monday. And so if you head over to shrinkster.com/1ce, there's a CNET article all about this. And for those of you who don't know, Avalon is this. It's an interesting project, just straight from the CEO's mouth. We're a subset of Avalon, the parts that people need today. It's an Avalon-like clone. So people are going to be getting Xamalon, or actually XAML, that they can work with now with the current versions of .NET and not have to wait for XAML to come out through Microsoft. They're going to work hard to remain compatible with Microsoft as things move forward. So that's kind of a cool product. $399, worth taking a look at. That's a bit of news. But aside from that, yeah, I don't have a whole lot else going on.
Oh, man. Sorry I scooped you, man.
No, it's not that bad. And it's all right. These things happen.
Ah, well. Slow news week.
Now obey.
Well, Rory, I know you probably didn't know until a couple hours ago who the guest was this week, and come to think of it, neither did I. So I just by chance, I am Chris Sells this afternoon, and our scheduled guest didn't work out, and I said, it's been a while since we've talked to you. Would you like to come on the show? And he said, sure. He's got a lot to talk about, the stuff that he's been doing lately, and he's been a sort of a regular fixture on this show. Yeah, and I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate having him on, and I know you do too. Will you please welcome Chris Sells?
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Chris.
Hello.
So, I know that the protocol is that I'm supposed to be quiet during that, amazing Connect with the Audience intro that you guys do.
Wasn't it amazing?
It was. It's always amazing. And I've been listening to a lot of them lately because I did like a whole house clean sweep of my house and had a big garage sale and, anyway. And I've been putting them on my MP3 player, although it's not an iPod. So is that podcasting?
Yeah,
I don't know
it is.
If that counts.
Yeah, podcasting doesn't matter which MP3 player you use.
So I was so trendy, I didn't even know how trendy I was. But I took some notes during your very moving intro because of all the, I didn't want to interrupt your flow.
Right.
So I have some feedback. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
So Rory,
I would like to hear it, yeah.
Okay, well, that contest thing you got going on.
Yeah.
So I saw that post. What do people have to do?
I left some pretty clear instructions, and for a guy who has that Mensa certificate on the wall, I didn't think they'd be that difficult. And if you can't get them, then maybe I should go back and rewrite them. What you do is you wait for me to post clearer instructions on Monday, and then you follow those.
I thought they were clear.
But I mean, do they have to write the coolest piece of code or
No.
see what cool thing they can do in the hotel room with the waste paper basket? What do they have to
No, because the deal with this contest is that if it were like a coding contest, then all the people who don't have VS.NET already would kind of be put out in the cold behind the people who do have it. And since the prize itself is the thing that they would use in order to do well in the contest, those people would be at a disadvantage, and those are the people I want to get this to the most. So,
so there's nothing. What do they have to do to win?
There are going to be 3 questions. 1 question on Monday, 1 on Wednesday, 1 on Friday. All they have to do is research the questions, write down the answers, like in a notebook or on their hands,
so these are
on
like
bathroom
coding
walls.
Questions of things that you're having trouble figuring out at your house.
No. It's
your manager came to you and said, "I have these 3 things I need you to do."
No, these are going to be things. I was actually very clear in the post that this is really just my way of trying to raise awareness of the MSDN events team, because we can't do traditional marketing. So I'm trying to hit people in another way. And Microsoft didn't put me up to this. I actually just got these 2 copies of VS.NET in the mail, and I thought, I'm just going to see what I can do with these. And so I'm going to put people on a little bit of a scavenger hunt.
I see. So it's like an internet scavenger hunt.
Exactly. Yeah, and as long as they get the answers right, with the form that I'm going to give them on Friday that they can plug all their answers into, then they get entered into a drawing, and then the drawing decides who actually wins. I was thinking about doing this thing with time limits and all this other stuff, but then I thought, a lot of people are reading it who are in Australia and who are here and who are there, and I don't want to screw these people just because there'd be like a time limit or a deadline.
So you'll
or something
actually
like that.
determine a winner this week?
I'm going to determine a winner the week after next week. So this coming Monday, we're going to begin the contest, and then the contest itself will be finished on Friday, and then I'm going to announce a winner a week from that Friday.
Friday the 15th.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think.
Because I have something that I could give away, but I don't know if the timing would be right.
Is it a used kilt?
Please, no.
It wasn't very well used. No, actually, I run this little conference.
Oh, yes.
Starts with XML, ends with DevCon?
Yeah, so the Applied XML Developers Conference in Skamania Lodge in Stevenson, Washington, October 20th and 21st. I would be happy to donate a seat for you to give away in your contest, Rory.
That would be
very cool.
Really incredible. What I would do actually is I will bump up the decision date for the winner. I wanted to give everybody enough time to get their entries in, but I'll just tell them, look, you got to have them in by Monday morning. And then on Monday morning, I will do the drawing and give the stuff away. That'd be awesome.
Well,
that's
from
cool.
Me to you, Rory.
Excellent.
Well, thank you,
so
Chris.
that was my first bit of feedback.
Okay. And by the way, the kilt thing. Tell everybody what that's all about. What's this kilt thing?
So I wore a kilt, and I put a picture of it on my website to prove it. And the kilt was, so I went to this little gathering in the desert called Burning Man. It was an intimate little... There it is. I love the polka remix. I so love the polka remix.
Let's just listen to a little of this. Oh my goodness.
So I think most of my family is convinced that Rory is my gay lover. Simply because who else would write a song in his hotel room with his wastepaper basket and his accordion, apparently, about my little trip to Burning Man?
Well, my aunt's been trying to give me a purse for Christmas every year for the past 4 years, so my family's kind of suspicious too. But
you already carry a purse. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. I was like, I've already got one.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
That's not me. That color is not me. It doesn't match my eyes. What are you trying to do to me here?
I love that song. Yeah, most of my family is just incredulous that my little trip into the desert with 35,000 of my closest friends would yield such a response from anyone. But anyway, so about the kilt.
So you were there.
So the kilt, yeah.
So the idea of the kilt is I wanted to, this is a group of, freaks, frankly. and I wanted to fit in. Right, I'm not like Rory. Right, I'm not naturally free.
And you had never been before to Burning Man.
I've never been before. And when a couple of people, Microsoft employees, in fact, MSDN employees, sat me down, my wife and I down for a beer and a counseling session.
Oh God! Before or after?
This is before. This is like the here are the things you need to know.
Yeah.
And they went so far as to mention, that the happy pills I should take in the post-Burning Man depression that I was sure to experience. Yes.
Really.
So they said, you got to wear a costume because everyone else is going to wear a costume. And if you don't wear a costume, you're just like a pervert. So I wanted to be a pervert, certainly, but I didn't want to look like a pervert.
We have that on tape.
Right.
That's a soundbite we'll be playing over and over and over again.
I want to be a pervert, actually. Put
some polka music behind that.
So they recommended Utilikilt, which, there happened to be one. The Utilikilt store is in downtown Seattle, where I happened to be at the time.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I and my two children, the Sells brothers, went shopping for a kilt.
Huh.
And, of course, that's what I wore to fit in with the rest of the freaks at Burning Man.
Now you said just generally that this was a gathering of freaks, but what is the premise of Burning Man anyway? Because I still don't understand. They burn an effigy, and they chant, and they dance. What is it?
Okay, so according to the Travel Channel, which is the
authority on Burning Man,
the night of the burn, they call it the burn. That's when they burn this giant, I think he was 30 feet tall this year and decked out in neon.
Okay.
They burn this giant wooden statue of a man.
Right.
And I couldn't tell you what the official theme is, but it's kind of a mix between survivalism in this harsh desert environment and kind of extreme self-expression.
Okay.
Right? So it's art and in all forms, whether it's personal decoration, whether it's sculpture or painting or buildings or
But it's meant to be a human, spiritual, sort of transcendental experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they do away with all. There's no monetary transactions allowed there. Meaning, it's not like McDonald's sets up a temporary hut.
Buy a bottle of water, you're out.
But it turns out that they do make two exceptions.
Okay.
To their no money rule. Okay. They will sell you ice, which is good. So you go every day or two to fill up your cooler. And they will sell you lattes. And apparently those are the two most important survival pieces of equipment you need in the middle of the desert.
And little sheets of paper. Dipped in something.
Yeah, if you bought ice, you could turn it into water.
I've heard that.
Well, that's interesting.
That's just my survival instinct coming out right there.
Well, that's amazing. Rory, they would love you in the desert. And I mean that in the same way that I would say they would love you in prison.
So was there
on a submarine?
Was there a lot of naked people there?
There were, yes.
Yeah.
There were so many naked people.
Yeah. Okay.
That's unfortunate.
And you had the kilt on the entire time?
Well, no, actually, after I realized that no amount of kilting would allow me to fit in, I switched to shorts.
Oh, okay. But you were fully clothed.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have the Chris Sells that we know from the picture.
I wasn't wandering
with a laptop,
the desert wearing nothing but a laptop.
No. Okay. Well, good. So, what you been up to lately over there at Microsoft?
So I have been for more than a year. I just, in fact, had my first review at Microsoft. That's like a big deal for
people.
You
bet.
They get, and it turns out that they like me. They want to keep me. So
well, that's good.
I find that nice. Yeah. So in the last more than a year, I have been working almost exclusively on the Longhorn DevCenter and Longhorn-related activities and technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have been doing on and off lately is a pretty cool project where I actually get to work with a team of people internally that use the various technologies of Longhorn, now WinFX, together to build stuff that we tell people you should be able to build with these technologies.
Okay.
And so we kind of spend a week or two specking out some app, and then we split up the development duties, and we build it, and we see what we can build and what we can't build, and then we give the feedback into the product teams when we can't figure out how to do it or when it doesn't work.
So let me ask you a question, and don't take this the wrong way, but how do I say this? You guys must have a lot of time on your hands right now, waiting for. I mean, what's going on with Longhorn? I thought the whole thing was sort of postponed.
So Longhorn itself, actually, with the very good things happened with that announcement. The big news is what we call it internally.
Right. Okay.
So with the big news, that was actually really good because it split two very complicated kind of interdependent projects apart from each other. Right. With Longhorn depending on Avalon to build the shell, and then Avalon depending on a new driver model in Longhorn, there was just so many interdependencies that it was just really hard to build the whole thing all at once, right? I mean, giant pieces of software are always harder to build than smaller pieces of software.
Right.
So by splitting them, they were able to actually put hard and fast, hopefully, dates on things, right? Longhorn will ship in 06, and WinFX, I understand, will ship in that same time frame. But they want to be dependent on each other, meaning, of course, you've heard the big news, right? WinFX will work on Windows XP and Windows 2003 as well as Longhorn. So
does that mean that you guys have to come up with something new and cool about Longhorn, at least from a marketing perspective or an evangelist perspective, to get the word out about what's different about it from XP with all the features of Longhorn?
So there are all kinds of people doing that very thing with Longhorn, but my focus is primarily on the programmatic APIs, right?
Okay.
WinFX.
All right.
So when WinFX and Longhorn became two separate projects, I shifted my focus to WinFX.
Okay. Good.
So honestly, I've lost touch with the cool new things going on in Longhorn.
All right. So what aspects of WinFX are you working on?
Well, of course, the big ones, right? Avalon and Indigo. And so right now we've just finished one app internally, and we're starting up a new one. The specking process on a new app to build as a group. And it's a small group. It's like less than a dozen people.
Cool. Can you tell us anything about it? Or?
I just did.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a small app. That's all.
But that's still really. I mean, that's just a small part of my duty.
Oh, okay.
Because the big thing that I just took on recently, and we're talking like the last couple of weeks, is work on the Smart Client DevCenter.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you knew. Did you guys know that Microsoft had a Smart Client Developer Center?
Not until you talked about it.
Yeah, all I know is about WindowsForms.net, but I didn't know about a separate Smart Client portal.
So there is one already that was kind of put up because Microsoft has been making a big deal about this idea of Smart Client for a while now, and of course Longhorn was one expression of that, right? But that isn't the whole thrust of what Microsoft wants you to think about when you're building your apps, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of capability in the .NET framework today now that you can only really tap if you're building applications that target the platform as a whole, not the little piece that runs in the browser.
Right.
So with that being an important part of the message, they put up this developer-centric portal a little while ago, and now they've just asked me to kind of do the same thing with that as I have with the Longhorn Developer Center, which is kind of give it a public face and contribute to how I think it should be structured and what content developers need to know to be effective in writing smart client applications.
Cool.
So this is like brand new for me.
Yeah.
I mean, the smart client thing, I've been doing that and no touch deployment and Windows Forms for years.
Right.
right? I mean, with the Wahoo application,
Yeah.
Chris Anderson, I said that I was the first guy to actually do no-touch deployment of a real app across the internet, and to figure out how that actually worked.
And that was a nice little game too, right?
Yeah, it was a Tetris clone. And of course, when I got to Microsoft, and I realized that because I built it before I went to Microsoft, but I realized that the inventor of Tetris worked at Microsoft.
Oh yeah.
I sent him a little email and I said, "Hey, look at this thing I built! Isn't it cool?" And he sent me an email right away saying, "Yeah, that looks like a copyright violation." So that was my brush with fame there.
Great.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed.
I remember that story from a while back. I had forgotten about it. It was nice to enjoy that all over again for the first time.
So I still haven't finished my feedback on your monologue.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I mean, if you have something more important.
No. Well, I was wondering if you had something more important to talk about, actually. But go ahead.
So this Vegas thing.
Yeah.
So that sounds like it might be fun. Except for, is it a bunch of geeks getting together in Vegas doing geeky things? Or is it a bunch of geeks getting together in Vegas trying to be like normal people?
They won't be wearing any kilts, if that's your question.
All I can say, Chris, is both. And when you say being normal people, I think you mean normal. I think you mean normal people in Vegas, right?
Well, they do have activities in Vegas that have nothing to do with computers.
Or normal people. Yeah.
Well,
for that matter.
I meant normal people in Vegas.
Yeah.
I would say, just going to go there and like projectile vomit at each other after eating a bunch of Cheetos and stuff like that.
There's both.
I'm saying that would be a lot more normal in Vegas than say getting into a hotel room.
Rory,
if you want to go, and if you want like a projectile vomiting partner, then I'll throw up on you and you can throw up on me if you want to do that.
Let's call the whole thing up. All right, listen. I think I can safely say we're going to do both. We're going to have a party with some food and some drinks, and then we're going to go out. All right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say. That's
because the going out part, that could be potentially fun.
Oh, insanely. You have no idea.
There's a top secret element here, Chris, that we cannot discuss and will not discuss.
But Rory, I think he might be a good candidate for the person that we're looking for, actually.
That's possible?
Yeah. But we'll just leave it at that. And
that's all we're going to say, Chris.
Well, goodness. Okay, so moving along.
Yeah.
On the Wired interview thing, Carl?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I really
have broken through to the closest thing to a secular press that we are ever likely to see.
It's true. I mean, I can't believe it, really.
Yeah, I've never done that. The closest I ever came was when the Seattle PI put me on a list of people that Microsoft had hired lately when I first got to Microsoft. And so, but I mean, they did call me for a quote, and then I had to spend 2 weeks getting approval from my management to be able to give them one.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I had all kinds of state secrets, right?
It's almost better than Tech TV,
Oh, way better.
It's like
totally. I mean, the only thing better is if, you were featured in People. Right? Because then you could send that to your parents and they would have some
hope.
Because my whole family knows that I do something cool,
yeah,
but they don't have any idea what it is.
Right. Well, same here. Yeah.
I mean, and so they try to be proud of me, but what are they really proud of? All they really know is that people are writing songs about me with polka music.
But you still tell them, right? You still go to your mom's house for dinner and you try to explain what you've been doing lately, and she could just keep see her looking at her watch and glancing around the room.
Oh no, I don't even bother.
Oh, you don't bother anymore?
No, she's like, "Oh, what's up?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just been doing some computer stuff."
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even bother. Yeah. So on that .NET Rocks file reloader guy,
yeah,
who was willing to copy the file to some server just so he could make it through his corporate firewall.
Right.
I love the fact that this is such a grassroots kind of stick it to the man show that you can people would risk their jobs, their livelihood, their kids' college education just so that they could listen. Although, if the guy can copy the file from your server to his own server, maybe he could copy it to a zip drive or burn it to a CD and bring it in his pocket or something.
There's an idea.
I don't know. Low tech, I know, but
no, it's not a bad idea. Yeah. Maybe you could get some BitTorrent going or something. Or maybe you could just download it at home.
Sure.
And bring it in.
It just seems like there's a lot of ways to get Carl and Rory without that didn't risk his kid's college education.
Yeah, well, that may be true.
Okay, one more thing.
Okay.
So how many times have I been in this show now?
I think this is your fourth.
Yeah. And one of those times I wasn't even a co-host.
You were the host.
I interviewed you.
Yes, you interviewed me.
Now, all those people that send you emails, you send them crap, don't you?
Yeah.
But the host or the frequent guests, do you ever send them crap?
The frequent guests, no, the guests, actually don't get crap, but they get incredible exposure, and that is better than a freaking coffee mug, so quit whining.
He'll make you famous.
The last time do you remember what happened the last time I complained about this?
Yeah.
You actually custom designed a T-shirt with Rory's pictured on it just for me.
Right.
And you sent me one.
Yeah.
Do you recall the size of the shirt you sent me?
I just believe I picked the size that you told me. What was it, a large?
No.
Oh, did I send you the wrong size?
The small.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I've been wearing it on my left leg. Sometimes I change it to my right leg.
Wait a minute. I don't think I ordered a small. You have to go out of your way to order a small.
You sent me a small. I had to go in and order my own piece of useless crap.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. Well, I guess we'll have to give him his money back, Rory. So.
Well, he should have called Frankenstein customer support. That's the problem.
I'm
going to wait until I'm on the show again, and then I'm going to bitch and whine about the shirt.
But the shirt is pretty cool, right? It's got a picture of Rory pointing the finger at you, his index finger. And
in fact, I immediately ordered one because Rory was coming over, and I wore it to the door, so he would feel comfortable, right?
Now, Chris, how do you think this? How do you think this affects what your family thinks about me?
They know who you are, Rory.
Now, is it just the song, or is it possibly just that you're wearing this shirt with me on it around the house?
Well,
Maybe
you did write a song about me alone in your hotel room.
Yeah,
so they probably know what kind of a relationship we have.
So good. That was an awkward silence right there. So what are you guys doing?
If you're expecting a show with Chris Sells talking all about the great technical things that he's learned lately, this ain't it. So
we could do that.
There was something that I learned that was kind of cool lately. Okay. Actually, I've been having a blast with Whitby.
Yeah, me too.
Because, I've spent so much time on the Avalon stuff, right?
Didn't you tell me once, Chris, that for you, Whitby was legacy?
That's right. It's the thing that is just, assumed. But I'll tell you, I've been having, the cool thing about Whitby is there's tools.
Yeah.
Right? Not that I don't appreciate designing my heavy-duty graphical interface with, my 101-key keyboard with XAML and Avalon. But, the drag and drop in Whitby has something to say for itself, especially the new one. Have you guys played with Beta 1 of Visual Studio?
I have.
Oh, yeah.
I have.
Oh,
absolutely.
man.
I missed something. What in particular are you talking about?
Just in general. Everywhere I turn, there's another little thing. I got down to a lot of the programs I write kind of internally for tools at MSDN or whatever, I use Everett because, I can't assume that people have Whitby, let alone the latest beta or whatever, right? But this program was just for me. So I had installed the beta, and I started it from scratch. And, I wanted a menu. So I pulled in the new menu strip, and I said, oh, yeah, just give me all the standard items. And I used all those and ripped out the ones that I didn't need, and all the pictures were there and all the right names. And then I started adding my own menu items.
Yeah.
And instead of it being like menu item 1, menu item 2, right, something useful like that, it actually added menu items with the appropriate names. So I didn't have to go back and rename them. Names based on the text.
Yeah.
Just
That's
little
cool.
stuff like that.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over.
What I've been telling people is that Whitby, or 2005, as I guess we have to call it nowadays, even though I think Whitby is a cooler name. It makes me feel like 2003 was just sort of like like Notepad. It's really that much different.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that there's that big a leap, but
what happened is like 2003 did a lot of things for us that were really nice and everything, but 2005 gives us like everything else that people have kind of been screaming for and that people want to see in a modern IDE that just wasn't in 2003.
Yeah,
I'm totally with you because the menu thing was was a nice little productivity enhancement, right? It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But then the next thing that I wanted to add was some user settings for my app, right? And so normally I would go to that chapter of my book, and I keep soft copies handy so that I could go and scrape out the little piece of code that I say, if you want user settings, here's what you should do, right?
Right.
And I just paste it in my app and then go from there. But have you guys seen the new user settings stuff in 2005?
I haven't seen user settings in the Beta 1 refresh, but are you talking about Beta 1?
I'm talking about Beta 1. I assume it's still there in the Beta 1 refresh.
Okay, no.
So all you have to do is go to the properties. So you go to the project properties, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right-click on your project and choose properties.
Uh-huh.
And there's this big kind of, it takes over like one of the windows, like one of the code windows. It's one of those.
Yeah.
It's like where all the properties were, like the build settings and whatnot. And
oh,
one of them
yes.
is called settings.
Yeah.
And the settings is just a list of named typed pairs. So you give it the name of a setting like user email or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you give it a type, and you're allowed to pick from, string or int or whatever. Or you can, like, say, I want a list of some custom, like a generic list of some custom type. Whatever type you want. And then you can give it a default value, and you can say, is this a user setting or an application setting? And it'll keep track of that.
Yeah.
Right? So now you have, inside your code, you just have a named collection of all these things.
Right.
And they're all type safe, too.
And there's no writing, reading, and all that.
All you have to do is save them. They're automatically loaded for you.
Yeah.
And you just have to, whether they're application or you have to keep track of.
That's so cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah. How about
that's the difference between Notepad, right, typing the code yourself, and 2005. Absolutely.
We're going to have some people talking about Whidbey next week from Microsoft, but the thing that I love that I saw that blew me away was the XML refactoring in IntelliSense in Whidbey.
The XML they do XML refactoring?
Well,
Sharp refactoring.
You might call it refactoring, but it's sort of like, every time that you change, if you change an element name, for example, in one place, it'll change everywhere else that it's referenced, things like that.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I call that refactoring, but
IntelliSense
and XML, and in config files.
Cool.
It's just like you said, it's the little things.
It's just a ton of little things that make it really sweet.
Yeah. Well, you could say the same thing almost about the .NET environment, that it's IntelliSense, and we've had IntelliSense, but it's really the IntelliSense that makes you a productive developer,
That's pretty much how I learn these days.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it used to be, I felt all superior being a Windows programmer because I didn't have to type man or, whatever you did on the Macintosh. I don't even remember.
Right.
I could just press F1, right?
Right, yeah.
And now I don't even have to do that.
Right. So this is a good question because I was talking with Jesse Liberty the other night in Boston. By the way, we did a .NET Cabana night, kind of like the Tech Ed Cabanas. Tom Robbins from the Boston office put this together, and he got a whole bunch of people up there to do these sort of informal discussions in different rooms on different topics. And Jesse Liberty was up there along with Richard Hale-Shaw and myself and a whole bunch of other people. Anyway, he said that the my namespace in VBNet.
Sure.
Why don't C# programmers have that? Because after all, it's not the tools that make programming easier, like that people dislike VB654 for. It's not those things. It's the lack of true OOP and all those other things and the sort of crippled underpinnings that they don't like about it. So why wouldn't you give any tools like the my namespace to C#? He actually feels a little bit gypped, and he thought that the VB team was a little he feels like they're being elitist about it. And it's kind of odd to see the shoe on the other foot, but it's true. I mean, why shouldn't C# programmers have that?
Well, I mean, it's interesting.
It is.
So now the question is, at this point, I mean, now that the Visual Basic programmers have generics, both
right.
Using and creating, is there anything left that C# has that VB doesn't?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Unsafe mode, maybe, and who needs that, really? Unless you're very
So it's really just C# programmers getting the shaft.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Well, I think as the C family of languages, right? I mean, the guys programming C and operating systems and C++ and COM and ATL and STL.
Yeah.
I think we're used to getting the shaft.
Right, but does that mean you shouldn't have tools there that make it easier to do your job if you wanted them? You know?
But remember what environments and tools and languages that these guys, I mean, they picked torture when they picked C.
Well, but
right?
because
they
it
could have gone right to Visual Basic all along.
Yes, but because it did the job. Visual Basic didn't do the job. But if they have something that does the job and helps them do the job faster.
But there's nothing you can do in Mine that you can't do in C#.
Okay,
yeah?
but you'd have to make your own shortcuts, essentially.
Or you could just write the longhand code.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's
Have you heard programmers complain about, gosh, you're making everything too easy?
No, but have you heard VBNet programmers complain they don't have generics, but as soon as they have them, they're going to say, how could I live without this?
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I was having so much fun with generics in my little program the other day.
You know, Chris, I actually do hear coders complain that things are getting too easy.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, I've been hearing that a lot lately, which is kind of freaky to me.
Yeah.
They're afraid of losing their jobs.
No, they don't trust it. That's it. It's just too high level.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't buy that we'd rather have the pain. We'd rather do it the long way all the time, I think if it does the job, there's a big majority of programmers out there who would just as soon not type everything.
But one of the I remember as an ATL programmer, one of the things that I really loved was when the COM server wizard generated the code. There was nothing magic, right? It wasn't built into the compiler or something, the support for ATL. It was just, here's your DLL entry point, and here's where it creates the classes for doing server stuff, and here's what these calls mean.
Yeah.
And if you don't like that, your DLL entry point, go nuts.
Right.
It was right there. Whereas with the My stuff, it's great. It goes as far as it goes, and it takes care of that common task for you. But if you need it to be just a little bit different, suddenly you're dropping down into, I got to write all that code by hand anyway, just so I can tweak that little thing.
True.
And remember, the C family of languages is for those kind of people.
Sure.
Right? It's really a personality thing, not a productivity thing at this point.
True. All right. Well, listen, let's hold that thought and come back to that on the other side of the hour. But right now, Chris, I know you have something that you have to do, and you'll be back. And we're going to turn it over to Mr. Kirk, who has the Weird Wide Web segment of the show.
Utterly amazing.
What you've been waiting for this whole time.
Horrible.
Soluble. Yeah, you got to hook that up.
Oh, yeah, I do. That's right.
For you listeners out there, the link is going to be shrinkster.com/1.
Wait a minute. You're all business tonight? What is this? Here's Kirk. The URL is what?
You're right.
What have you been doing, man?
I've been doing it's my it's a big weekend for me. It's my birthday weekend.
Yeah.
I turn 66 years old.
Cool. 66?
Yeah.
I'm typing shrinkster.com.
Exactly.
You're telling me you're 65.
Yeah,
great.
Okay. Going to pick out my new present tomorrow.
Is it a motorcycle by any chance?
Why, yes, it is.
Did you just buy a motorcycle?
No, I took
that one back.
I couldn't.
Too much grief.
Too much. Yeah. So
too much grief.
The wife. So this one, it's it's nice. So picking out the new one tomorrow, and it's been a dream of mine for
so for those of you
66 years.
So for those who don't know Kirk, he's he picks out weird websites and tells us all about them, and it's a nice little diversion we like here on the show. So anyway, what you got for us
today? First one, shrinkster.com/1CA.
1CA. What might this be? The Soluble song.
This is very cool.
There's two kittens playing guitar and dancing. Soluble.
This cat's great.
If I woke up soluble, I'd have to shake and cower, and I'd
subject terror every time that I walk past the shower. That I'm not soluble, that would be quite bad. But that I'm not soluble, that would make me sad. So sad.
It's like a little Beatles thing happening.
I'd probably lose all my friends, but they would find.
Well, that is weird. I got to tell you,
it's actually just ridiculously cute.
Well, it's very cute. But
to be honest
with
you, on that site, rathergood.com is the main site. There is so many great little short films like that. There's videos. Just go on the left. The kittens do several.
That's a flash animation. By the way.
It's so funny. There's so much there. I mean, you could literally spend hours just looking at these. It's great.
I can't believe I just watched cats singing about being soluble. Somebody's doing a little, I don't know, something.
It's rather good. Well, shrinkster.com, 1CA, and go to the parent directory and you'll find it. All right, next one. This is great. Carl actually sent me this a while ago, and we haven't done it yet, and this is fantastic. It's shrinkster.com/1CB. That's
this is insane.
1CB, and
this is a blog post, right?
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
This is from somethingawful.com.
You got to scroll down a little past the picture, and there's a whole bunch of links to this this guy's mother's house. Actually, I don't know if I think it's his house too. She's an eBay fanatic. Now, my wife likes to go to QVC and occasionally buy a thing or there, but this is a bit much.
So wait a minute, he's now got links to the pictures? They don't.
No, I think because he had so many, it was taking too long for the page to load.
Oh, so he just linked them.
So he linked them instead.
Okay.
But
anyway, so what it is a tour through his mother's house, through his house where he lives. And his mother is an eBay addict and a pack rat.
Oh, my God.
And there's basically zero living space in this house. It's filled with crap. And he takes picture of room after room after room after room after room after room filled to the brim with stuff that she trades on eBay. And he's got his comments, about every room. And it's just spend 5 or 10 minutes here and thank the Lord you aren't insane like that. It's really, really weird and entertaining at the same time.
How much did she spend?
I don't even remember that figure, but I know it's like there's a picture of his room, and he says, "This is my room, one of the only places that doesn't have stuff." Oh, nope, there's some more junk. She must have moved that in yesterday when I wasn't looking.
Okay, so my wife's a pack rat, and that's why we took 9 months to clean out my house. But it wasn't like this.
Yeah,
this is unbelievable.
I like the snow globe and paperweight collection. Wow.
Okay, so what's next, man?
Okay. Next is a New Zealand fetish of sorts. It is shrinkster.com/1CD. That's 1 Charlie Delta.
Or the actual URL is just as easy.
Zorb, ZOB.com. ZORB, excuse me.
ZORB, yeah, sorry. Zorb.
I want one of these.
So what is this?
This is a giant inflated plastic ball that you roll down cliffs and jump out of airplanes
like a human
with.
Hamster ball?
Yeah, it's awesome. But they put you in it and roll you down like giant cliffs in New Zealand. It's great.
Wow.
So this had to have been invented at Burning Man. This is totally what
is it? If you look inside
all of this stuff.
If you look inside the third picture, I think he is wearing a kilt, actually. He could be. No, probably
and
not.
So they have this guy sells them?
So it's basically just pictures of the
he's got a
tourists and stuff.
He's got a patent.
Yeah, I'd go nuts, man. If I invented this,
it just looks like the throw-up machine.
The throw-up machine. Yeah, but
like the vomitorium.
But with a much better view. You just
that could actually be really, really fun.
Zorb Jedi training at dawn. Huh, interesting.
So this is much better than the tractor tire I rolled down on hills in when I was a kid.
Good stuff, man.
So it's fun. I want to do one of these.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay,
right, man.
terrific.
Well, we'll see you next week. Thanks, man.
I'll be here.
That was great.
Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to you. Absolutely. He's not dead yet. No, he's not dead yet. So we actually want to announce on this show as well that we have a poll due to some letters that we've gotten saying, what is this weird Wide Web stuff in a .NET show? And And so we put up a poll to see if people want us to kill Kirk. And because some of us do, and we want to know if they do, we want to know what method they want us to use to kill him. And maybe Kirk should do something else on the show. So anyway, go to www.franklins.net/web. That's WEBB poll. Just web poll. Yeah. /web poll. So that's it. All right. Well, stick around, and we're going to play some music and pay some bills, and we'll catch you on the other side of the hour. This is a Franklin Brothers tune called Dream Factory.
Gone away the fireflies that I saw from my brother's eyes. Gone away the summers of my dreams. Racing cans down Irving Street, safe and warm in the evening heat. Someone always looking out for me. Trade you a Steely for that candy bar, asleep in the back of my daddy's car. I know he'll tuck me in when we get home to my dream factory. To my dream factory. My dream factory. When I was 16, I drove that car, fly away so fast, so far. Try to find someone else who thinks like me. Who do I turn to? Who can I trust? The house next door has an impenetrable crust. Such a big neighborhood and yet so all alone. In my dream factory. My dream factory. Just a kid, what the hell do you know? What have you learned from your life down below? Love and happiness won't pay for things you need, like a dream factory. Like a dream factory. Like a dream factory. When I was a child, I knew more than I know now.
Got to thinking that it just doesn't matter, baby. Got to thinking that we're all alone. Got to find a way to reconcile this problem. Got to find a way to make it home. So if you haven't checked out ActiveReports.net yet for reporting, you want to do that. If you're doing any kind of reporting inside your applications, web applications, Windows applications, you want to check it out. It isn't going to break the bank, and it's got all the features you need. Integrates directly into the VisualStudio.net environment. So there's a familiar user interface. You can use it with C# or VBNet or any .NET language. And allows the reports to be compiled and included as part of your application for speed and security, or distributed separately. There's also a beginner report wizard and a Microsoft Access Report import wizard. You can also host third-party controls in the designer, like chart controls, image controls. There's a fully exposed object model, and you can modify and build reports dynamically. It's great stuff. And as I said before, it's affordable, great reporting from Data Dynamics. Check them out. They're a great sponsor of .NET Rocks. They've been with us since the beginning of the live show, and we love their products, and that's why they sponsor us. www.datadynamics.com. Always searching for some deep and hidden meaning. Never happy in the place I am. Truth changes, but the facts remain the same. Just to be amazed every day. On a clear night, I can see my brothers. On a clear night, the elders in the sky beckon to me with some strange communication, and I can hear them. I can hear them. Oh yeah. Oh, I can hear them. Call my name. Call my name. Don't have to say a word, just call my name. Call my name. Call my name on a clear night. Call my name. Call my name. Call my name. And that was Franklin Brothers, myself and my brother Jay, with our album title cut, Strange Communication. It was kind of fun, and you can check it out at pwop.com. That's pwop.com. You know what that stands for? That's the sound of a forehead slap. Pwop, like that, exactly. Yeah, just like that. So just an update before we do Ask Rory. The Kill Kirk web poll is pretty interesting. What do you think of Kirk's Weird Wide Web bit? Awesome, don't change it. It takes the lead at 40.82%. It sucks, stick to .NET is at 25%. We have good at 12%, okay at 10%, and 5% said Kirk is evil. To the question, would you rather hear Kirk Webb do some other bit on the show instead of the Weird Wide Web? A majority, 60%, said no, and 40% said yes. To the question, should we have Kirk Webb killed, 68% said no. This is looking good for you, and 32% said yes. If you answered yes, please select a method of execution or choose let him live, and overwhelmingly, 60% said let him live. Which is odd, because followed by 11% that said, I don't care, just kill him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the rest, cement, shoes, acid, fire hose, flare, and firearm in that order.
Well, it's all about cement.
Yeah. So there you go. And now it's time in the show when we do a little segment we'd like to call Ask Rory. Rory Blythe answers your questions about jobs, love, relationships, code, and anything at all that's on your mind. Rory, what's up this week with Ask Rory?
What's up? Okay, so the first letter that I got this week was from Gary Stanley in the UK.
Okay.
And all he did was he provided a link to an article, and he said, how do I avoid doing this? And the link to the article is shrinkster.com/1C as in cat 8. Not as in like ATE, as in like the cat ate something, but as in the numeral 8, 1C8, okay? And what this will do is it'll get you to an article that would probably have previously only shown up on Kirk's segment. The title of the article, I'm not going to use all the words in the article, is Man Mistakenly Cuts Off His, you know what, Beep. Dog Eats It.
Oh my God.
An
we
elderly
can't say
Romanian
that on
man
.NET Rocks.
an elderly Romanian man mistook his, you know what, for a chicken's neck, cut it off, and his dog rushed up and ate it, the state Rom Press News Agency said Monday. So Gary's question is, how do I avoid doing this? And my advice for you, Gary, would be to cut your thingy off now and then store it someplace safe where the dog can't get to it. Like if you have a cookie jar on top of the fridge, or Tupperware is actually really good, and maybe in the freezer, you know, like behind the ice cream where people aren't likely to find it and, you know, like serve it up as a cocktail treat during a party or something like that. That would be my whole advice to you, but either way.
They make that bitter apple spray, you know, so the dogs won't eat stuff.
Do, actually.
You could spray it, and the dog would probably leave it alone.
That's a real story? That really happened?
Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's Romania.
It said 67-year-old Constantini Mocanu from a village near the southeastern town of Galati rushed out into his yard in his underwear to kill a noisy chicken, keeping him awake at night. I confused it with the chicken's neck, Mocanu, who was admitted to the emergency hospital in Galati, was quoted as saying. I cut it, and the dog rushed and ate it. Doctors said the man, who was brought in by an ambulance bleeding heavily, was now out of danger.
That's insane.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway.
Then the next one comes from Robert Nagby of El Cajon, California. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I did my best.
Yeah, El Cajon.
So he says, I'm writing because recently I ordered some very nice speakers from a company that I will not name because, well, who knows, with all of your fame, you might eventually get lots of free stuff from them, and then one day they'll discover that you once read something negative about them, and then they'll want to take away all your free shit. So, anyways, I ordered these speakers with a deal that I had received some free music from a popular download service. Again, I'm not going to name the service because, well, all that same stuff that I said earlier. Mm-hmm. I was just supposed to get a gift certificate or card or whatever. So I got my speakers and find a shipping invoice stating that the free music thingy would be shipped separately. Okay, no big deal. Well, it's been 2 weeks and still no free music. Now I'm feeling gypped, so I called the company with which I had placed the order, and I inquired about my damn free music, and the response I received was, I'm sorry, those are back-ordered right now. Huh? How do gift certificates get effing back-ordered? Sure, I ordered a CPU online, and I get the crappy-ass nobody wants me Intel Inside button-up shirt that's 3 sizes too small, and I only wear large. That comes right on time, along with the really lame please call me a nerd mousepad with a calculator.
Is this another rant?
No, it's not that long.
Okay.
Why can't I get the really cool stuff when I order computer stuff? Why must I always get shit that labels me as a geek? I mean, please. I really got a coffee mug that said computer nerd on it when I ordered the water cooling system for my computer. Holy crap. I have a water-cooled computer with a wireless mouse and keyboard and a 30-inch LCD monitor and 2 gigs of RAM. Do I really need a coffee mug that informs the world that I am a computer nerd? Why not just ship all these things with a damn pocket protector and high-water pants? So my question is, do you think I'm wrong at being a little miffed? Or am I completely justified in my want to bash this company? Robert, and I think I speak for the entire .NET Rock staff when I say I think you're an asshole. And that is basically .NET the thing, my segment for the week.
Succinct.
How to make friends and influence people.
Yeah, really. Send those complaints or questions to Rory at neopolian.com.
And put Ask Rory in the subject line. It makes it infinitely easier for me to find him.
Right. Lord. Well, how do we follow that, Chris?
I want to get back to the guy who mistakenly... So he's wandering around his backyard in the middle of the night, and he doesn't have anything covering his hoo-ha?
Well, the thing is, when a chicken kind of goes nuts in your backyard, you don't have time. You don't really think. Like instinct takes over.
And his instinct was to chop it off?
I think he was doing something with the chicken and it got stuck. That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how these things happen.
I think there's a story we aren't being told. You know what I'm saying?
I think you need to invite this guy to Vegas. He truly knows how to party.
Oh, somebody says in the chat room, Roy, if I drink hallucinogenic tea, I will cut my genitals off. So obviously there are all sorts of reasons this could happen.
Will I? That's a question. Will I cut my genitals?
Oh, will I? I thought he said he would. Okay, well, whatever. Yeah, point is, I don't really know how that happened, but it was on Yahoo News, so it's real.
Oh, okay. Well, of course. Sounds like something you'd read on The Onion, Well, anyway, Chris. So let's. We were talking on the phone earlier about learning and teaching, and I know that you've written extensively about this on your weblog because you're not a big fan of drink from the fire hose kind of teaching, trying to shove a lifetime of experience down people's throats in 1 week or even 2 weeks, or even 3 days that some people try to do. So, and you've been learning a lot of stuff on your own at MSDN at Microsoft, and knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know. How's that going? I mean, how's the learning process going for you? The things that you're working on.
So, I have a pretty sweet gig at Microsoft, right? I mean, a content strategist at MSDN gets to, it's my job, it's my charter to, on the technologies that I'm assigned to figure out what it is developers need to be successful in those technologies, and to schedule the content, to gather the content, whether it's internal or external, that they need. Mm-hmm. And of course, what that means first is I have to understand the technologies and participate in the community enough on all the technologies that I care about to be able to make, reasonable decisions about that content. So what that means is I get to spend a lot of time learning, which I like to do. And often it means I'm learning stuff, especially most recently, it means I'm learning stuff that hasn't been written about before. It hasn't been even documented yet. I mean, if you look in a lot of for example, the Longhorn SDK, you find things that, I've got a foo object here, and what does the foo object do? It provides foo-ness. Well, that's not very helpful.
Right.
so I
or the very infamous, an object is a black box. Great.
I don't remember that one.
How do I code that?
From the outside, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
So I get to spend a lot of time learning stuff, and even with my WinForms book, I get a lot of credit for just knowing stuff that no human could know about WinForms. If you read some of the Amazon reviews, they say, how could this guy possibly know all this stuff about WinForms? Like I was a developer on the team. And it was the case that I wasn't even an employee when I wrote that book. So I didn't have access to the source code, or I didn't have access to any information that anyone else outside the company doesn't also have access to.
Yeah.
And, this is something, learning how to learn is probably the most important thing I learned at Developmentor.
Yeah.
Being an instructor on various very heavy-duty technologies. I mean, I remember I remember trying to cram all the information into my brain on COM so that I could teach it that first week.
Yeah.
And COM is the hardest technology ever invented.
It's insane.
Because not only was it a very weird technology in general, with all kinds of dark corners, it makes C++ look easy. COM itself, all the documentation was written from the exact wrong point of view, right? Remember, Ole was the big deal, right? So you learned all about object linking and embedding to try to learn COM. And they're almost completely unrelated. And in fact, the OLE interfaces are a very poor example of how to use COM.
Yeah.
So you spend all this time trying to read the documentation, and it's just all wrong. And it's not their fault. They did the best they could, but they didn't really understand it either. I mean, the guys who design the technology don't write the docs, right? They read and hopefully review the docs, but they don't write them. So when I was learning COM, I mean, it got so bad that, I mean, I would cram all of these facts in my head about COM,
right?
But they didn't gel. I didn't understand them.
Right.
And that's okay when you're sitting, in your robe trying to make COM work, right? But when you're up, there's no better motivator to learn something than fear. And there's no better way to scare the hell out of yourself than to schedule to give a 5-day short course on the topic.
Yeah.
So I learned COM. It all came together for me. That first week, I taught the COM course.
Wow.
And I remember it was so bad. And I mean, up at front, iUnknown and iDispatch and those kinds of technologies I got, right? And so the beginning of the week went really, really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as we went down through the week, I remember getting less and less sure of the content until like Friday morning, right before the structured storage talk. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen or programmed against COM structured storage.
No, I have not.
Have you, Rory? Insane, the complexity. I mean,
what
because
is
they've
that?
got a whole, not only do they have a whole file system inside of a file, but
that.
They've got a whole transaction system built in there, too.
You know what? I did do that in VB. It's like coming back to me and something I wanted to forget. I did do that. You're right.
I'm sure that mini therapy sessions to suppress those memories.
It's like if you take an XML document and binaryize it and stuff it inside a COM object, right?
Yeah, it's like as complicated as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And this was all, native interfaces, no like nice garbage collected interfaces.
Oh, God, thank you. I was trying to forget that.
Well, I don't blame you. So it was so bad, and I just didn't understand it so much. I mean, again, I knew all the facts, but I didn't know what it meant. That at 8:55, before I was supposed to, give the last day's lecture, I was actually literally hyperventilating in the room down the hall. That's how nervous and upset I was.
Wow.
But then the most amazing thing happened. At 9, I started explaining that technology to a room full of people. And I'd say the facts. And I'd say them a little longer. And then I don't know what happened. It was magical. It all clicked in my head. Yeah. I learned structured storage during that 45 minutes.
I have had experiences like that. I've had experiences like that where you know the facts, but there's, you don't you connect the dots when the words are coming out, and there it is. It's just right there, and they get it. And you want to say, isn't that amazing?
That's the moment that you learned it.
Right.
You learned it at the exact same time that they did. And so it just all sounds normal and natural coming out of their mouth, and they're nodding their head like, sure, that makes all the sense in the world.
Makes sense to me.
They have no idea that the pain you went through to come to an understanding so that you could explain it.
Yeah.
And so the learning process is an amazing one because, I mean, when you're learning something, you're learning from the fire hose that is the information stream that modern day developers have.
Right.
I mean, in the old days, I remember, getting my MSDN library CDs and installing them and spending like a few hours, like reading through the new stuff and, reading Dr. GUI and,
Dr. GUI.
That was like once every 3 months, and that was the information stream that I had.
Right.
Now I get 10 times that information every morning in my RSS aggregator.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just so much information that you have to kind of pick through and digest. And a lot of what I do, I mean, right now I'm at the beginning of the learning curve for the smart client related technologies, not WinForms, which I already know a bunch about, but like the Compact Framework.
Right.
I know very little about. Visual Studio tools for Office, I knew very little about.
Yeah.
So the way I approach things is the only way I can really learn is to be motivated to learn. And since I don't teach anymore, the way I motivate myself is to sign up for user group talks on a topic that I don't know anything about.
That's cool.
I can actually teach you everything you need to know about the Compact framework in like 2 lines.
Oh, yeah?
And the Compact framework is basically a wrapper around system.not implemented exception.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's a matter of learning what's not there, not what is there.
It's fantastic
Rory,
for what it does, but there are some things missing.
To be fair, Rory, it is a very small footprint and a very efficient wrapper.
Yeah, I've been using it.
No,
I've been using it this week, and I absolutely love it. And I even wanted to steer some of the conversation towards that because just in terms of smart clients, I was thinking, what a fabulous platform, the Compact framework and PDAs, with some connectivity for smart clients. And I was wondering if you guys were going to do anything about that. But I don't want to stop you like mid-thought and switch topics, but that's something to kind of keep in mind maybe.
It's interesting, too, because when I first sat down, my first Compact framework application ever was when I ported Wahoo to the Compact framework.
Right.
Remember when it was a big deal that Visual Studio 2003 shipped with the Compact framework stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I was porting it, and man, I had no idea how spoiled I was as a Windows 4 programmer. Because there was I was loading bitmaps and resources and drawing, and I had chosen the most convenient way of the dozen overloads and mechanisms to do various things.
Yeah.
And with the Compact framework, that's just overhead, right?
Yeah.
They give you one of those dozen. The problem is, of course, finding it.
Right.
Which one of the paths? So I remember spending some very frustrating.
One of the most frustrating things I ever came to when working with a Compact framework is realizing there's no serializer. There's no formatter, right? There's no serialization. So I actually went down that road of creating my own for simple types.
But there is definitely some mechanism for reading, saving, and restoring data.
Well, there's mechanisms for saving data sets and as XML,
actually.
But there isn't any binary formatter. There isn't any. There must be an XML formatter, but I haven't seen it.
The OpenNet CF project has their own serialization implementation, but it will only serialize the properties of a class. Well, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, that's what you want. And the primitives. Yeah,
right.
Serialize. The functions should serialize. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are other things too, though. Yeah.
Climbing that learning curve is one of the most favorite things that I have to do. Like, for example, in the Avalon work that I've been doing, actually the WinFX work as a whole. I mean, I've started with Avalon stuff, but the idea was to add more features as I went along to my little Longhorn solitaire application. That was just, I wanted to learn how these technologies work. So, I had a bullet list of here's the things that I should be able to do as a Longhorn programmer.
Yeah.
Well, let's come up with a fun app.
I totally agree, man.
Those things.
That is how I learned programming in general. I always wanted to write a bulletin board. A bulletin board.
Yeah.
I thought they were magic, and then I dissected them and started working with them. That was that was my holy grail. So fortunately for me, though, I didn't finish one, or else I would have gone mad. But anyway, I totally agree, man. You got to give yourself a project.
I can't imagine people that just. I guess I'm sure there are people that can just dissect the documentation and somehow magically learn stuff that way. But I gotta build something.
It's got to be something great. It's got to be something that you really want, to use.
Yeah. It has to be something where you're like, I need this feature in this app, or my life will crumble.
Right.
I'm writing this software to take control of my life, and I'm a computer geek, so this is the best I can do. So I have to do this, by God, and it means life and death to me.
Yeah. Hey, before we get on another topic, I want to talk about your XML DevCon a little. Rory talked about it that he would give away a ticket, but and we sort of talked about it a little bit. But tell us what this is. I mean, it's sort of like this thing you started, a very low-key conference, low-cost, low-key conference, right?
So we've talked about the birth of the DevCon before, haven't we, Carl?
Yeah, but it's been a while, so let's talk about it. again?
So the DevCon itself, the first one ever was the ETL DevCon, which happened right in the middle of the bubble. Right. And that happened where a guy on the DCOM mailing list he was sent around an email that said, hey, there's a bunch of us that are in the UK together. Why don't we get together for a brew?
Yeah.
And he got about 12 people, and they all went and had a good time. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. So I sent an email to the same mailing list, and I said, hey, why don't we all get together, my neck of the woods in Portland, and, and these were all like COM ATL guys. We'll talk about COM and ATL. And I kept getting email after email after email of everyone that wanted to come. And I said, well, geez, we can't just do this at we don't have enough room in a bar.
Yeah.
So that's how the ATL DevCon was born. And that was more than 200 people.
Wow.
That showed up. And it was just me covering expenses. And I'd never thrown a conference before.
Right.
And then I just put up my one page and said, here, to people, send me your session ideas, and I'll pick the talks.
Yeah.
And they did. And I invented a conference format that I'd never seen, but I liked. It's single track, 45-minute talks all day long. And it's just, all the cool stuff that I wanted to hear about.
Yeah.
And now this is the 5th time I've run the conference. Some people, I call it the DevCon. Some people have been calling it the SalesCon lately, which is kind of a nice little thing for them to say. But it's still the same format. I announce a call for papers, and I mean, normally at this point I have like 4 times the number of people that send in talks than I can actually pick. Because I've wanted to keep it's been single track this whole time. It's been 2 days, and I like that intimate feel. Everyone is experiencing the same talks all day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this shared experience. It's, it's my Burning Man.
Yeah, cool. Except nobody gets lit on fire, right? Yeah.
Well, we do have, traditionally we have a Q&A panel where we put all of the speakers on the first night up in front on like little chairs, and we pass around a microphone and we take questions from the audience. And by this time they've been drinking for about an hour. So no one's actually ever been lit on fire, but there has been lots of flames. I'll give you that. So this year is, like I say, is the 5th. It's later this month. And boy, it's like I say, because whenever I send out a call for talks, I mean, I have so many regulars because I've run the conference so many times, but I always have so many new people too that just want to talk. Like this time I've got a guy from the government who wants to talk about XML and missiles.
Mm-hmm.
I got to hear about XML and missiles. Mostly I'm hoping that there isn't any actual XML on the missile.
Yeah.
Right, maybe they use it to run the washing machine program that makes sure the missile is shiny, but not actually in the missile.
Maybe they just keep a log of its use.
Right.
Hopefully.
I don't like the idea that any technology that I can program actually goes into weapons.
It's all COBOL. But Chris, there's this this guy out in the chat room, James B43. I love this. You just have to know about this. He just writes, "Cells and con in the same phrase. How can you not trust that?"
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Another guy in the chat room wanted us to ask you to take some code and compile it in your head to MSIL and spit it out for us.
What's the matter? Chris can't do it?
Yeah, what's the matter?
Chris.
Go. No.
Syntax error line.
We actually did have a question about Avalon, and it is about the context property. And tell us what that's all about. And is that a really good idea?
The UI context?
Yeah. Well, no,
I love the idea.
Like button context, everything has a context property. Yeah.
So
yeah, the UI.
The idea of a UI context in Avalon is, well, so in Windows today, based way in the history of 16-bit Windows, there is user32 or user.dll.
Oops, hold it. I messed up. That's the wrong question. It's content.
Content?
Yeah, the content property, not context.
Oh, darn, because I had all kinds of fun stuff to say about the context.
We'll come back to the context.
Okay, well, so the content is cool because this is also a cool part. It's like the core of how Avalon works.
Okay, what is it exactly?
So Avalon's got a whole new model for how things are put together. The way we kind of had it in Windows before was that we had controls that kind of drew themselves,
right,
with GDI or GDI plus commands, and we had containers of those controls that kind of arranged them.
Mm-hmm.
But they were different. Now in Avalon, we do have drawing commands, but they're you can think of them kind of as primitives, as controls themselves. Like a line is now a control, or a filled circle is now a control. Right? So, for example, the button is something like 11 other controls that are put together to build a button. So, the outline of the button, and then the text of the button, and then the fill of the button, and all those things form together to make the button.
Okay.
So the whole model isn't I have a button that knows how to draw itself, but rather I have a control that contains primitives that, when they're displayed together, look like a button. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
But the cool thing about that, the reason that's cool.
I'm sorry, the guy in the chat room asked me to beatbox behind you while you answered, Chris.
I was wondering, what the heck's he doing? Wiki.
All right, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not, but I'll assume it's a good thing. So the whole idea is that if you want to replace what the button looks like without changing its behavior, you just load it up with a bunch of other controls. But if you want an image in the button, you just change its content. This is where the content property comes in.
Okay.
You change its content to be a set of other controls.
But so the follow-up question is, isn't, since it's like an object and it's late bound, isn't that like a variant? Kind of, isn't that going down the same slippery slope that VB6 had with variants?
Well, so the type of content is definitely object, because it can be one thing, like here, I want my internals to be an image, or it can be a collection of things, like I want it to be 3 images and some text and an arc or something.
Yeah.
So it's purposely generic, meaning that you can throw stuff in here. The other part that makes it really cool is, for example, list items, right, in a list box are no longer strings, right? List items in a text box or in a list box are the thing itself. And in WinForms we had this, and then WinForms would walk up to the thing and say, toString, right? Give me the string representation of you.
Yeah.
And Avalon will do that kind of by default, but the preferred mechanism is to be able to apply a style so that you can say, hey, when you see an instance of a foo, take this style. Let me make it more concrete. Let's say you see an instance of a person, and a person has a name and an age, okay?
Yeah.
You can say, okay, whenever you see a person, I want you to apply this style that shows the person's name in blue and then their age in parentheses.
Okay.
Now, the guy who puts the person into the list doesn't have to care about that.
Right.
The guy who cares about that is the designer of the application who says, I've got person objects here.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, I'm just going to arrange it this way.
So he's going to customize the view. The follow-up question to that, then, is why weren't generics used for content?
Why weren't generics?
And is it even possible?
Isn't there like a big story behind this? Why generics didn't show up more throughout the CLR anyway?
Oh, well, I mean, Avalon was built and designed before generics were working. So right now,
but look, you got 8 more years. Why don't you just go back and redesign it?
Well, if you let me finish that sentence, what I was about to say is that the Avalon team is putting in generics as appropriate.
Oh, cool.
Right, to simplify the coding model.
Oh, good.
I don't see content being any kind of a generic type.
Yeah.
Because it can hold a thing or a collection of things.
Okay.
But I mean, going further on that style thing, For example, when I was building my Solitaire app, I had a data structure that represented a card, right? It was a rank and a suit.
Mm-hmm.
By default, it just showed up as, A, C, right? Ace of clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Then I could turn to the style for the card and say, you know what? When I see a C, I'm actually going to replace that with a graphic for the clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, the text is going to be red or black depending on the suit.
And that's all done at the programmer can just do that by setting properties?
The designer does it in the styles.
Okay.
The programmer just loads up a list box full of card data structures.
Okay. Cool.
It's very cool.
That is neat. That is very neat.
And so later, all of my logic of moving cards between piles and which cards can go in which piles, that never needs to change. But when I get some really fancy graphics, because right now I'm just kind of styling text, but I've got some graphics to drop in. And when I drop in the graphics, all I have to do is change the style that says, oh, Ace of Clubs, that maps to image 47. Bang. Here you go. Here's the image. But I don't have to change the behavior of what it means to click on an item.
Yeah.
Or drag it around, or the underlying data binding that moves it between data structures or determines whether it's okay to move it from this pile to that pile. All I'm changing is the display, which is completely separate from the behavior. That is the beauty of that content property in Avalon.
Okay, let's talk about that question that I asked you by mistake before, which was about the UI context, which just happened to be a slip of the tongue, and you went off on something that I know nothing about.
I was back into the history of 16-bit Windows.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the history of 16-bit Windows, of course, was cooperative multi-threading, right? There was a single process that ran the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to enter the message loop to let other applications have a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys remember this?
Oh, sure. No, I've done message loop programming. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounded really believable.
So the way it worked is we had all one thread, right? And so that's the way that User 32, which is the windowing system of Windows, was written. It was based on single-threadedness.
Mm-hmm.
That was all wonderful and good until we got to 32 bits and multiple threads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as is still the case today, you're only allowed to talk to whatever a window, an H window, from whatever thread you created it on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole elaborate scheme in Windows forms.
Thou shalt not send a message to a window from any thread but thine Windows' own thread.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's built, there's invoke and begin invoke to be able to go back and forth between the UI thread and a worker thread in Windows forms.
Yeah.
And that's all well and good. And in fact, that same sort of model is in Avalon in the sense that you can only use a control in Avalon. You can only talk to it in the same UI context.
Okay.
Meaning if you own the UI context.
Okay.
Now that's a little different because in Avalon, different threads can own the UI context.
But is the synchronization done down below, or is it totally new?
The synchronization is done by Avalon. It's built in.
Right. Okay, great.
So what happens is by default, you're allowed to, everyone in the same thread is allowed to party on the UI.
Oh, that's cool.
Right?
That's cool.
But if you're on a different thread, all you have to do is reach up into the control, acquire its context, do whatever you want to do, and then release it.
Oh, sweet.
So you don't have to hop the threads if you don't want to.
That's cool.
It's very cool.
And that's good because, I'm kind of getting sick of teaching this asynchronous stuff to VB programmers and watching their eyes glaze over.
Sure.
It's
but
not
you
easy.
Still have to teach them that, hey, you have to own the context.
Well, okay, but that's
and
a little
why
easier to
is
understand.
That?
It's a little easier to understand than creating a delegate and using me invoke and what's this all about? Why do we do this and all that? Yeah.
So the underlying principle is still the same.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, somebody's got to own the context for the control before they can start messing with it.
I think
the mechanism for doing it is considerably simpler in Avalon than it is in Windows 4.
That's good because the
principle
is easy.
Have you seen the background worker component in
Yes,
Windows
I have.
4
Yes, I have. And in fact, I've written my own version of that in 2003,
sure.
which I did in a class, live in front of a class for the first time. Never did it before, but I said, that sounds fun. Let's do it.
Sounds like Carl should be compiling C# to IL in his head.
No,
with a bebop beat in the background.
I swear to God, that was fun.
Oh, isn't that great? I love it when some clever student asks you something and you say, I don't know.
Let's try
find
it.
out.
Yeah, and then it works.
And you write the code.
Yep. One other question from the chat room. Why is it that I can call graphics.fillRectangle and pass in a rectangle F, the floating point version, but I can't call graphics.drawRectangle with a rectangle F?
Because they forgot a couple of APIs.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, when I wrote my book, I noticed that there were a couple that they had forgotten.
And one more question.
Sorry, there wasn't a deeper answer there.
No, that's
back in the DOS days.
Yeah.
No, they just forgot.
Right. Speak, if you will, about the performance of Avalon 3D versus Direct 3D, and how can you speak about it other than theoretically, right?
Well, one, I'm not really allowed to, as a Microsoft employee, talk about performance numbers for pre-release software. Two, anyone who's used Avalon has signed a EULA that says the same exact thing.
Okay.
And three, let's talk about it anyway. So, Avalon 3D is built on top of DirectX. In fact, all of Avalon is built on top of DirectX.
Oh, sweet.
It's not built on top of GDI or GDI Plus or User. They are interoperable.
Mm-hmm.
But, for example, if you start up an Avalon app
mm-hmm.
and you put a bunch of controls on it and you fire up SPI++, you'll only see one HWin for the whole app, which is the main window. And that still can interact with the shell.
That's cool.
So, it's because it's a whole new stack. It's all built on DirectX to get the capabilities of DirectX and the hardware acceleration.
So then one can speculate that it's probably pretty similar. Yeah.
In terms of?
Performance.
So, of course, a thing on a thing is never as fast as a thing, right?
Yeah. But it's
they have built an abstraction that primarily adds 3D as a first-class citizen in the 2D space.
But
this is something classically DirectX hasn't been very good at.
But what I want to know, Chris, is can I walk into the dungeon, turn left, look at the wall, and see my code? You know? That's what I want to know.
Sure. I don't believe that Doom 4 will be written in Avalon 3D.
Doom for developers.
But
find the bugs.
6 might be.
And kill them.
Yeah, find the bugs and kill them.
But it's my understanding that most of the games, most of the highest selling, most popular games now, are like those little free games that are not highest selling. But most popular games are those like little free games you get on like Yahoo or something.
Yeah, right.
More people play those kinds of games, which you could easily implement with Avalon or Avalon 3D.
Well, and also, they're just easier to understand. Some of these games really take a lot of concentration and concerted effort to get good at, let alone learn. I mean, if I'm going to expend that much brain power, I'm going to write some code, Yeah. That's the way I feel about games. I play the mindless games, Yeah,
I'm a big first-person shooter fan myself.
Yep.
Rock on, brother.
So there's another question in the this is for Rory, actually. He says, James, I kind of miss Google Weirdos. How do you guys feel? Chris, I want to ask you, do you miss Google Weirdos?
Do I miss Google Weirdos? I think Google Weirdos peaked when the website popped up to just type a message to Rory as will show up in his Google referral log.
Yeah.
I mean, when that level of abstraction was added and, anyone could do it, it just took all the fun out of it.
Yeah. Mitch Denny at notgartner.com actually wrote an application using VS 2005 that lets you send me messages through Google. So it did hit kind of a weird point.
Yeah, that's
awesome,
that's when it peaks, right? When anyone can do it, it's not fun.
Who needs Gmail? Just use Google Web Services, right?
Yeah. That's secretly why everyone hated Visual. All the C programmers hated Visual Basic, right? I mean, they sweated and bled for C++ and ATL and COM, right? And when Visual Basic programmers could just do it in a line of code, that just wasn't fun.
And they didn't know why they were doing it.
Well, and they didn't
how
have
it
to.
worked.
They didn't have to.
Until they ran smack dab in the wall and they came crying back to us.
That's true. That binary compatibility really bit us in the ass.
Those three 3 options on that radio button.
That'll kill you.
I was very proud where I crammed the meaning of all 3 of them in my head for about 5 minutes one day. And then they were gone forever.
I wrote a book on sockets, and I wrote a couple of tools that wrapped were protocols: mail, SMTP, FTP, POP3, NNTP. And so they were written as a series of components, and the first component was just like a WinSock component, and the second one had the protocols that used the first one. And when I shipped it, I just shipped the code. I didn't ship the DLLs because I didn't want to mess up people's registration and COM registration and stuff. So I just shipped the code, and I remember getting tons of emails from people who were saying, "Where's the damn tools? There's no DLLs here. How am I going to use this?" And, which is weird because it's a book, not a product. You're supposed to read it and understand it, load it, then compile it, then add your references. And I remember telling people, like, they didn't know, like, what references were and to add reference to the, build it. And that's just, that kind of thinking was a big, rampant problem.
Dude, don't even talk to me about book technical support issues. I wrote a telephony book. I'm still getting emails from people who want me to help get their modems to work.
Oh, God.
That's when I first heard about you, actually, was when I found your telephony book online.
When you sent me the email about trying to get your modem to work?
I wanted to use your book to figure out how I could write an application and make it possible for me to set up my phone so they would automatically answer for when people came to my front door and wanted me to buzz them in. I just wanted to buzz them in automatically. Yeah, and then I wanted to tell my manager about it because I hated him and he really pissed me off, and that's why I wanted to do this. And I was going to use your book to do it, but then I found out I had totally the wrong kind of modem, and I gave up and I went and ate donuts or something instead.
So my father, I often quote him as saying that necessity is not the mother of invention, laziness is.
Laziness, yeah.
And I don't know why, but telephony and laziness have often gone together for a lot of people, like what you just said. Remember when I wrote the IM engine just so I could hook up a modem to watch the phone number and it would IM me when somebody called. I could know if I could get off my butt to answer the phone or not. But my crowning achievement was when I was actually doing telephony for a living this was in my Unix days, back before even Intel. We had a corporate policy that every morning we had to re-record our voicemail with today's day and date and then leave the same old message, just so that people who got our voicemail would feel like we were there and engaged and that we would love them.
It's a good technique for salespeople, I think.
So, I'm not. Well, I guess so. I was a developer, though. So.
Yeah, if you're a developer, what the hell,
Yeah, so what I did was I recorded myself saying all 12 months, all 7 days, and all 31 days of the month, and then programmed my computer to dial up the voicemail system,
awesome.
enter all the digits, and string together the message.
Hi, this is Chris Sells. Today is Tuesday, September 2nd, 1999. And I'll be back in the office a little bit later. Thanks, bye.
And the thing that was fun is that I did it at like midnight. So people who called at 1 got my brand new voice message for that day, right? That I was at my desk at 12:05 recording my own personalized greeting.
Meanwhile, all the sales guys are rushing around, spending all that time punching in buttons, and yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. The developer has the most active and up-to-date voicemail of all the... Well, Richard, the toy boy, is on vacation this week. He's off to another country, and so we don't really have any toys to give away. But Chris, since I thought you offered one to Rory, a seat at DevCon, I wouldn't like you to offer a seat to DevCon through us, because that would sort of cheapen the prize that Rory's going to give away. But what I would like to do is, since this week has been all about podcasting and iPods and all this kind of stuff, I think what we will do is give away an iPod to a live listener. But a 20 gigabyte iPod. But what I would like you to do is give the live listeners a scavenger hunt to find on the XML DevCon page. And when they find that little piece of information, or somewhere else, because now I've given them the page and they're already looking, right? Somewhere else, when they get that piece of information, they send it to .NETRocks@franklins.net, and the first email to hit my inbox will win the iPod. What do you think?
Okay. So here is the scavenger hunt.
Okay.
So on my centerfold, right? So if you go to salesbrothers.com, well, I'll give you the base URL /fun.
Mm-hmm.
There is somewhere on that page there is a link to me naked, or me and wearing a laptop.
Oh God.
You've seen the centerfold, haven't you, Carl?
Yes, I have, and I want to forget, frankly.
On the back, of the centerfold, that's where you list, your height and your weight and your eye color and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I listed my turn-ons and turn-offs, and I would like those.
All of them or just one?
I'll take any of them.
Any turn-on or turn-off. Why don't we pick just one so that I don't have to compare big lists to find a winner?
Well, we'd have to tell people ahead of time, though, wouldn't we? If
let me give you the order, which one I want.
Just pick the first turn on or something like that.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
my
good.
second turn off.
Second turn off.
What is my second turn off?
And while you're doing that, we're going to listen to the Burning Man song by Jason Olsen, the remix.
The Ghetto Street Mix.
Ghetto Street Mix. So if you can find Chris's second turn off, send it to .NET at Franklin's Net. We're standing by.
Dancing up the storm and it's starting laying down. And dancing around the fire, around the pyre, running again. And I hear Chris dancing with his love at Burning Man. They asked him where his love could then be found. He said, that's you there.
Phone delay.
Dancing round and round. I love her more than life, as much as I love Mom. Heck, I love her more than dawn loves calm. I hear Chris dancing all around. And dancing up the storm in his tartan man gown. And dancing down the fire, round the pyre and round again. I hear Chris dancing with his love at Burning Man. Dance, Chris, dance. Dance, Chris, dance. Dance, Chris, dance. You're not wearing any pants. Dance, Chris, dance. Dance, Chris, dance. Dance, Chris, dance. You're not wearing any pants. They found him the next day, no longer on his feet. He was sleeping on the ground like a royal deadbeat. The mad dog had run dry, his needs had all been met. And yet he cried because he missed his .NET. I hear Chris from dancing and dancing all around. When dancing up the storm in his tartan man gown. When dancing round the fire, round the pyre and round again. I hear Chris from dancing with his love at Burning Man.
And the winner is John Lee. And the answer is non-deterministic finalization. Yay! Congratulations, John Lee. You have won an iPod. Please send your mailing address to us, and we'll get that off to you in the mail. And congratulations. And you know what we'll do? We'll load it up with some .NET Rocks episodes just for you. And what can I say? Chris, man, it's always good to talk to you. And thanks for bailing us out, man.
Yeah, I just feel, I don't know what to feel about that whole second fiddle thing, right? I'm just a fill-in guy, but...
Well, that was great.
Right.
Well, on behalf of me and Rory Blythe and Jeff Maciola, Kirk Webb, Chris Sells, thank you, and listen to us next week on .NET Rocks.